The Final Frontier of English, Understanding Humor. Introduction. Have you ever been talking with people who speak English and they told a joke that everyone else laughed at, but you just looked confused? You might have smiled and nodded, pretending you got it, but inside you were thinking, why was that funny? This happens to many people learning English. You might be good at grammar, know many words, and can talk about lots of things. But then a simple joke makes you feel like you're missing a secret. English jokes can be hard to understand. They don't always have a big, clear ending. Often, the funny part is in how words sound the same, but mean different things. This is called wordplay. Sometimes, people say the opposite of what they mean. This is called sarcasm. Other times, jokes are funny because you know a little about English culture, history, or TV shows. These things make English interesting, but they can also be hard for learners. Most classes teach rules, but they don't teach you how to understand a wink or a joke that has two meanings. This book is about that. We think that to truly know English, you need to do more than just speak and understand. You need to reach the last level of English, understanding its special and fun sense of humor. Imagine you've climbed a mountain of basic English and can see the view. But there's one more top to climb. This top gives you the best view and helps you feel closer to the language and the people who speak it. That top is humor. This book will teach you about English humor fluency. What does that mean? It's more than just hearing a joke and knowing the words. It's about knowing a joke is happening. It's about knowing why it's funny, like a clever word game, a sarcastic comment, or a smart observation. And it's about being able to enjoy it. It means you feel good enough with the language and culture to laugh with others. Having English humor fluency means you're not just visiting the English-speaking world, you're becoming part of it. You connect with people in a deeper, more natural way. It shows you truly understand the language and helps you share laughter and experiences. In the next pages, we will look at different kinds of English humor. We'll see simple jokes that make you smile and more complex ones that make you think. We will learn how wordplay works, how to find sarcasm, and why jokes about culture make English speakers laugh. We will give you the tools to understand these jokes, so you won't feel confused anymore. Are you ready for this fun challenge? Let's start this journey together and discover the wonderful world of English humor. This will bring you closer to truly knowing English and understanding it better. 1. What is English humor? When you learn a new language, you might feel you know all the rules. You know how to put words together, ask for directions, and talk about your favorite food. You can read books and understand most of what people say. But then, someone tells a joke, and silence. You hear the words, but they don't make you feel funny. It's like looking at a pretty picture and only seeing the colors, not the story. This is where English humor comes in, and it's a big, exciting part of truly knowing English. Think of learning English like climbing a mountain. You've climbed past the trees and the rocky paths. Now, you are reaching the very top. This top is what we call English humor fluency. It means you don't just understand the English words you see and hear, but you can also understand, figure out, and maybe even laugh along with the smart, funny ways English speakers use their language. This is a big step, like unlocking a secret code. It shows you understand not just the words, but also the culture and the small tricks of the language. So, what exactly is English humor? It's not just about telling simple jokes. It's a whole way of looking at the world and using words to make people smile, chuckle, or even laugh. A lot. One of the biggest reasons English humor can feel hard is that it's deeply tied to the cultures where English is spoken, especially in places like the United Kingdom and the United States. These cultures have their own histories, their own ways of talking, and their own things they find funny. What one culture finds very funny, another might not even notice. Imagine you are visiting a friend's house. You want to be polite, so you watch what they do. If they offer you a cup of tea, you say yes, please. If they laugh at a certain TV show, you might try to understand why it's funny to them. English humor is a bit like that. It's a kind of social language. When you understand a joke, it's like you are showing you understand the rules of that social group. You are saying, I get it. I am part of this. This is a huge part of building friendships and feeling connected. One of the most common and, for learners, often confusing parts of English humor is something called wordplay. English is amazing because many words have more than one meaning. Think about the word bank. It can mean the place where you keep your money, or it can mean the side of a river. English humorists love to play with these different meanings. For example, someone might say, I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. The joke here is that put down can mean to stop reading, but it also literally means to place something on a surface. Because of the anti-gravity idea, the book is literally impossible to put down. This is a pun, a type of wordplay where a word or phrase has two meanings, and the joke uses both. It's a very clever trick with words, and English has so many words that can be used in this way. Another big part of English humor, especially in British humor, is understatement and irony. Understatement is when you say something is less important or serious than it really is. Imagine someone's house has just been struck by lightning and is on fire. An English person might calmly say, well, that's a bit inconvenient. They are understating the huge problem. They do not mean it is just a little bit inconvenient. They mean it is a disaster, but they are saying it in a funny, quiet way. Irony is similar, but often means saying the opposite of what you really mean. If it is pouring with rain and someone walks out without an umbrella, you might say, lovely weather we're having. You do not mean the weather is lovely, you mean it is terrible. The humor comes from the difference between what you say and what you know is true. Then there is sarcasm. Sarcasm is a sharper form of irony, often used to tease or criticize someone in a funny way. If someone makes a really silly mistake, you might say, oh, that was brilliant. You do not really think it was brilliant. You mean it was very silly. The sound of the voice is super important here. If the speaker's voice sounds flat or a little bit mocking, it is probably sarcasm. These kinds of humor, understatement, irony, and sarcasm, are tricky because they rely a lot on context. Context means the situation you are in, who you are talking to, and the general mood. If you do not know the people well, or you are not used to their way of speaking, you might take these statements literally. You might actually think they believe the weather is lovely or that the silly mistake was brilliant. Let's think about my own journey. When I first started teaching English, I remember a student named Maria. Maria was incredibly smart. She could write essays with perfect grammar, and she understood complex grammar rules. But when we had class discussions, she often looked confused when I or other students laughed at something. One day, I was telling a story about how I once accidentally wore two different colored socks to a very important meeting. I said, I looked down and thought, well, this is a bit of a fashion faux pas. Everyone chuckled. Maria looked at me with wide eyes and asked, Professor, what is faux pas? Of course, faux pas is a French phrase meaning a social mistake. Maria understood the words, but she did not catch the humor in me calling a simple mistake a fancy French term, especially with my slightly dramatic tone. It was not just the words, it was the playful way I was describing my own small embarrassment. I realized then that understanding English humor was not just about knowing words, it was about understanding the feeling behind the words, the cultural nod to something being a little bit silly or awkward in a charming way. This brings us to another key point. English humor often does not translate well. If you try to translate an English joke word for word into another language, it often loses its sparkle. This is because jokes rely on the specific sounds, meanings, and cultural background of the English language. A pun that works in English, using two meanings of an English word, might not have a similar word with two meanings in another language. For example, there is a classic joke, "Why don't scientists trust atoms?" Because they make up everything. In English, make up has two meanings: to invent something like a story and to form the parts of something. Atoms form everything, and scientists might joke that they invent or lie about everything because they are so small and basic. The joke plays on these two meanings. If you translate this into a language where the matching words do not have both meanings, the joke just becomes a statement. Scientists do not trust atoms because they form everything. It is not funny anymore. This shows that English humor is a unique mix. It is a cultural lens, meaning it is shaped by the shared experiences and ways of thinking in English-speaking countries. It is also about the nuance of wordplay, using the amazing flexibility of the English language. And it is about the art of understatement and irony, saying things in a way that is not direct, but hints at a deeper meaning. All of this makes understanding English humor a social skill, a way to connect with people. So, when you encounter English humor and it does not make sense, do not worry. It does not mean you are not good at English. It just means you are still learning the deeper layers, the cultural code. It is like learning to read between the lines. You are already understanding the lines themselves, but now you are learning to see the faint writing that is hidden between them. The fact that English humor relies so much on these subtle tricks and cultural understandings is exactly why it is such an important part of achieving English humor fluency. It is not just about knowing the grammar or the vocabulary. It is about understanding the spirit of the language and the people who speak it. It is about recognizing that sometimes the funniest things are said with a quiet voice, a knowing wink, or a clever twist of a word. It is a sign that you are not just a visitor in the world of English, but you are starting to feel at home. Now that we have explored what makes English humor special, this mix of clever words, cultural understanding, and subtle meanings, we can start to look at the actual tools that create these jokes. We will begin by diving deeper into the fascinating world of wordplay, the puns and tricks of language that are so common in English humor. 2. Getting jokes in English. It is good to share a laugh, is it not? That time when a joke works and you feel a connection with someone else. For those of us learning English, this can seem like a special kind of magic, but sometimes it is hard to catch this magic. You hear the laughing, you see the smiles, but the joke itself seems to go over your head. Do not worry, this is very common. To understand jokes in English is not just about knowing many words. It is about understanding how English speakers play with words and ideas. It is a big part of what we call English humor fluency, that higher skill of not just understanding what is said, but also why it is funny. It means you are truly getting the deeper parts of the language and the culture. Many times, when a joke does not quite work for a learner, it is not because they are not smart enough or because the joke is too hard. It is usually because humor often depends on things we all know. Think of it like a secret handshake or an inside joke between friends. These inside things are often shared knowledge from the culture, common sayings, or even just how words sound. For example, someone might make a joke about raining cats and dogs. If you are new to English, you might picture real animals falling from the sky. But for someone who speaks English from birth, it is a well-known saying that simply means it is raining very hard. The humor comes from the silly picture the words create, and the understanding that it is not real. So, when you miss a joke, It is often because you have not yet learned that shared piece of knowledge. That saying, or that specific way English speakers play with their language. It is a gap in what you know, not a gap in your smartness. That moment when you finally get a joke is truly special. It is like a small light turning on in your head. You hear the start of the joke, and then the ending comes, and for a very short time, your brain is trying to figure it out. Then suddenly you see it. You understand the change, the wordplay, or the unexpected link. This is the aha moment of humor. It is the point where the language trick or the cultural trick of the joke becomes clear. Suddenly, the silly picture, the double meaning, or the clever thought makes perfect sense. This feeling of understanding, this aha moment, is the key to unlocking humor. It is the reward for paying attention, for noticing the small details, and for using your brain in the playful way English speakers do. It is a feeling that tells you we're getting closer to that goal of English humor fluency, where these moments happen more often and are more enjoyable. Let us look at a simple joke. Imagine this. A man walks into a library and asks the librarian, "Do you have any books about parrots?" The librarian says, "Yes, we do. They're in the polygon section." Now, if you do not immediately see why this is funny, do not worry. The humor here is a pun. A pun is a joke that plays on words that sound the same, but have different meanings, or on a word that has more than one meaning. In this joke, the librarian is playing with the word parrot. Many parrots are named Polly, so the librarian is pretending that the books about parrots are in a section called polygon. It sounds like polygon, which is a shape with many sides, but it also cleverly includes the common parrot name Polly. The humor comes from this unexpected, silly link. The aha moment happens when you realize the librarian is making a word joke. It is a simple example, but it shows how a little word play can be the key to the laughter. To help you find these aha moments, it is useful to know some common ways jokes are made. Many English jokes follow a simple pattern, a setup and a punchline. The setup gives you some information, it sets the scene, and it makes you think you know where the joke is going. Then the punchline comes and it surprises you. It takes the information from the setup and gives it a change, a new meaning, or an unexpected turn. Let's try another one. This is an example of observational humor, where the joke points out something funny or strange about everyday life. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Here, the setup is asking why scientists don't trust atoms. You might think it is because atoms are too small or too difficult. But the punchline, because they make up everything, plays on two meanings of make up. First, atoms are the basic parts of everything. They truly make up all matter. Second, make up can also mean to invent or lie. So, the joke is funny because atoms are both truly the base of everything and they can be seen as making things up in the sense of inventing them. The aha moment is realizing this clever double meaning. You learn to listen for these double meanings, these unexpected understandings. One of the biggest challenges, especially with spoken English, is understanding how important the situation is. A sentence that might sound serious on its own can be very funny when said in a certain way, or in a certain situation. This is especially true for sarcasm. Sarcasm is when someone says the opposite of what they really mean, often to be funny or to make a point. Imagine your friend is wearing a bright, mismatched outfit and you say, "Wow, you look amazing today." If you say this in a flat voice, or with a small smile, your friend will likely understand you are being sarcastic. You do not really think they look amazing. You are humorously pointing out how strange their outfit is. The humor here is in the difference between the words you say amazing and the real situation, the strange outfit and the sound of your voice. Without the right situation or the right sound, sarcasm can be completely missed, and you might just think your friend is truly saying your very unusual outfit looks good. This is why paying attention to the situation, the speaker's voice, their face, and your relationship with them is so important. It all adds up to understanding the joke. This is a very important part of English humor fluency. It is not just about figuring out words, but about figuring out the whole social and language situation. When you start to notice these things, the sound, the look, the situation, you are developing a much deeper understanding of how English works and how humor is part of it. So, how can you actively get better at this? The best way is to practice. Think of it like learning any new skill. You would not expect to play a musical instrument perfectly the first time you hold it, would you? Learning to understand jokes is the same. You need to expose yourself to them. Start with simpler kinds of humor. Read joke books for children. Watch comedy shows that have clear talking, or listen to podcasts made for English learners that might have lighthearted parts. Do not be afraid to ask for explanations. If someone tells you a joke and you do not get it, it is perfectly fine to say, "I don't understand, can you explain it?" Most people are happy to share the humor. In fact, explaining a joke can sometimes be quite funny in itself. When you hear a joke, try to find the important parts. What was the setup? What was the punchline? Was there a word that sounded like another word? Was there a phrase that has two meanings? Was the speaker being serious, or were they perhaps being sarcastic? These questions help train your brain to look for the ways the joke works. It is like being a detective, looking for clues that lead to the punchline. Let's imagine a situation. Sarah, who is from Japan and has been learning English for 2 years, is at a casual party with her English-speaking friends. Her friend, Mark, is telling a story about his dog. Mark says, "My dog is so lazy. Yesterday, I threw a ball for him, and he just looked at it and then went back to sleep." Another friend, Emily, laughs and says, "Oh, that's nothing. My cat is so lazy, she thinks the remote control is a nap pillow." Sarah smiles with the others, but she is a little confused. She understands that Mark's dog is lazy, and Emily's cat is lazy, but she does not quite get why Emily's comment about the nap pillow is funny. It just sounds like a strange thing for a cat to do. Here is where the aha moment might happen for Sarah with a little help. The humor in Emily's comment comes from a few places. First, cats are known for sleeping a lot, so the idea of a cat thinking a nap pillow is a good idea is something you can relate to. But the real joke is the difference between a remote control and a nap pillow. A remote control is a tool used to change TV channels. It is something you use. A nap pillow is something you sleep on. The humor comes from the cat's extreme laziness, so extreme that it mistakes a useful thing for something purely for comfort and rest. It is a silly picture. If Mark or Emily explained it to Sarah, they might say, "See, Sarah, the joke is that the cat is so lazy, it doesn't even want to get up to change the channel with the remote. It just wants to use it as something soft to sleep on, like a pillow." Sarah might then say, "Ah, the cat thinks the remote is a pillow. That is funny because it is so lazy." This is Sarah's aha. She has now understood the humor by seeing the silly comparison and the exaggeration of the cat's laziness. This understanding helps her move closer to English humor fluency, as she is now ready to look for these kinds of silly comparisons and exaggerations in future jokes. The main thing to remember is that humor often depends on a shared understanding of the world, of common things, and of usual behaviors. When you are learning a new language, you are also learning a new cultural setting. So, when you don't get a joke, it is often an invitation to learn something new about that setting. It is not a failure, it is a chance. Developing this ability to get jokes is a big step. It shows you are not just understanding words by their rules, but you are connecting with the subtle, often playful, ways native speakers communicate. It is about seeing the unexpected changes, the clever word choices, and the cultural references that make English humor special. It is about building that English humor fluency, which is the final step to truly mastering the language. It is a journey, and every joke you understand, every laugh you share, brings you further along that exciting path. Once we understand how to approach jokes, the next step is to look at the specific types of humor that often confuse learners. We have learned to listen for the punchline, but what happens when the punchline is not what it seems? Let us explore the art of sarcasm, where words often mean the opposite of what they say. 3. Types of English humor. Learning to speak English is like climbing a mountain. You start at the bottom, learning the easy things, the words, how sentences work. It feels good, and you can see yourself getting better. But sometimes, you reach a point where you hear what people say, but you don't quite know why they are laughing. This is where jokes and funny sayings come in. They are like a beautiful view from a higher place, and they help you feel truly at home with the English language. Learning to understand these jokes is what we call English humor fluency. It's not just about hearing words, it's about understanding the fun spirit behind them. So, what exactly are these English jokes we are talking about? They are not all the same. Think of a box with tools inside. You have hammers, screwdrivers, and saws. Each tool does a different job. English humor is like that. It has different kinds of jokes that people use to make each other laugh. To get to that higher level of understanding, that English humor fluency, we need to look inside that box and get to know each tool. Let's start with one that is very common and, for many learners, a bit confusing: puns. What is a pun? It is a joke that plays with words. It uses words that sound the same, but mean different things, or it uses a word that has more than one meaning. It's like a small trick with words that makes your brain think twice and often. That surprise is what makes it funny. Think about this simple joke. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. Do you see it? The words too tired sound exactly like too tired. A bicycle has two tires, and being too tired is why someone or something might fall over. The joke works because the same sound creates two different ideas. For someone who speaks English all the time, this play on words is often easy to understand right away. The main hint here is that words sound alike. Your brain hears too tired and immediately thinks of both the bicycle's wheels and the feeling of being very sleepy. The humor comes from this smart mix. Puns need you to know certain things. If you don't know what a tire is or what tired means, the joke won't work. This is why understanding puns is so important for English humor fluency. It shows you are not just understanding words one by one, but you know how words can be changed to create a funny meaning. It shows you are starting to think like someone who grew up speaking English, noticing the double meanings and word connections that they often don't even think about. Let's try another one. I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. Again, we have a word with two meanings: put down. You can put down a book by placing it on a table, but put down can also mean to stop reading it. Because the book is about anti-gravity, it makes you think it might float away, so it's impossible to put down in the sense of stopping reading it, and maybe, just maybe, impossible to put down physically because of the anti-gravity. The word trick here is the phrase put down, which has a real meaning related to the book's subject and a second meaning related to reading. The humor is in the smart, unexpected connection. This kind of wordplay is common in English jokes, and getting good at it is a big step in your English humor fluency journey. Next, we have sarcasm. Sarcasm is a bit harder because it's not about words sounding alike, but about words meaning the opposite of what you really mean. It's like saying one thing, but meaning another, usually to make a point in a funny or critical way. Imagine you just made a big mistake, like spilling coffee all over your clean shirt. Your friend might look at you and say, in a very calm, almost nice voice, "Oh, great job." Are they really saying you did a great thing? Not at all. They mean the opposite. They mean it was a terrible, clumsy thing to do. The main hint that tells you this is sarcasm is often the sound of their voice. Someone who speaks English all the time would likely hear that great said in a certain way, maybe a little too nice, a little too slow, or with a slight change in pitch, and instantly know it's sarcasm. The situation also helps. Spilling coffee is not usually considered great. Another hint is the exaggeration. Saying great when something is clearly not great is an exaggeration that signals sarcasm. The listener's past experiences are very important here. They know that spilling coffee is a mess, not something to be proud of. Without that shared understanding, the sarcasm would be missed. Sarcasm can feel like a secret club among English speakers. When you understand it, you feel like you are being let in on the joke. It's a way of talking that is often used to show frustration, amusement, or slight annoyance without being too direct. It requires you to listen not just to the words, but to the way they are said and the situation they are said in. Achieving English humor fluency means being able to pick up on these small signals and understand the real meaning behind the sarcastic words. Think about this. It's raining very hard and someone asks, "Nice weather we are having, isn't it?" They are not actually enjoying the rain. They are using sarcasm to point out how bad the weather is. The word hint is the difference between the positive word nice weather and the bad reality heavy rain. The situation hint is the obvious bad weather. This type of humor relies on the listener seeing the difference between what is said and what is true. Then we have satire. Satire is a bit more serious, but it is still a form of humor. It uses funny methods like exaggeration, making fun of things, and irony to show and criticize silly behavior or bad actions by people, society, or even governments. The goal of satire is not just to make you laugh, but also to make you think and maybe even want to see things change. Imagine a comedian who makes fun of politicians. They might greatly exaggerate a politician's promises or make fun of their silly speeches. They are not just telling jokes. They are using humor to show what they believe are problems or strange things in the world of politics. The main hint for satire is that it is often aimed at something specific, a person, a group, an idea, or a situation. It's a way of commenting on society with a bit of a wink. For example, a cartoon that uses satire might show a politician with a very large head, meaning they are very proud, or a tiny brain, meaning they are not very smart. The exaggeration is the funny tool, and the criticism of the politician's pride or intelligence is the purpose. The listener's past experiences are very important because they need to understand the political situation being talked about to get the joke. Without knowing who the politician is or what they have done, the satire might not be funny. Satire often uses irony, which is when things happen in a way that is the opposite of what you expect, or when what is said is different from what is meant. A news show that uses satire might report on a silly event as if it were completely normal, using irony to show how strange the event truly is. The word hint here is often speaking in a serious, calm voice, where the humor comes from the difference between the serious tone and the strange content. Achieving English humor fluency means being able to see not just the funny parts of satire, but also its main message. It's about understanding that the humor is a way to give criticism, and that the criticism is often meant to be taken seriously even though it is presented in a funny way. Besides these three main kinds, English humor has many other types. We have wit, which is smart and fast humor, often with clever remarks or intelligent observations. It's like a quick flash of light, bright and fast. Then there's observational humor, where comedians talk about everyday things that everyone experiences, like the difficulties of putting together furniture that comes in pieces, or the strangeness of food on airplanes. The humor comes from seeing yourself and your own experiences in what the comedian is saying. This type of humor relies a lot on shared experiences and common observations of life. The main hint is that the topic is easy to relate to. There is also situational irony, which is when events turn out in a way that is the opposite of what was expected, often with a funny or sad twist. For example, a fire station burning down is an example of situational irony. It's funny in a dark way because you expect a fire station to be the safest place from a fire. The situation hint is the unexpected result that is very different from the expected or normal situation. These different kinds of humor, puns, sarcasm, satire, wit, observational humor, irony, often mix together. A comedian might use a pun in a sarcastic comment, or a satirical piece might use situational irony. This is what makes English humor so rich and, at times, so difficult for learners. The important question of how the listener's past experiences affect whether each type of humor works and is understood is really the core of English humor fluency. For a pun to work, the listener must know both meanings of the word or both words that sound alike. For sarcasm to work, they must understand the situation and what the speaker likely truly feels. For satire to be enjoyed, they need to know about the subject being criticized. It's like needing a secret word to enter a club. The secret word is the shared knowledge of the culture and language. When you are learning English, you might hear a joke and not laugh, and that is perfectly fine. It doesn't mean you are not good at speaking English. It just means you haven't learned how to use that particular tool in the humor box yet. But by learning to identify these different kinds, you are building your ability to figure them out. You are becoming more aware of the tone of voice, the situation of the conversation, and the small twists of language. Think about a time when you heard a joke and felt a little confused. Maybe someone made a pun, and you just heard two words that sounded the same, but the funny connection didn't make sense. Or perhaps someone said something in a sarcastic tone, and you took it literally. These moments are not failures. They are chances to learn. They are the moments when you realize there is more to English than just the meanings in the dictionary. There is a whole level of fun meaning, and understanding it is a sign of true skill. As we have seen, English humor is not just one thing. It is a lively collection of techniques. We have looked at puns, where words play games with their meanings. We have looked at sarcasm, where words say one thing, but mean the opposite, often relying on tone. And we have touched on satire, where humor is used to show the problems in society. Understanding these different kinds is the first big step. It's like learning the alphabet before you can read a book. Once you can spot a pun, recognize a sarcastic remark, or understand the point of a satirical joke, you are well on your way to achieving that desired English humor fluency. You are not just someone who listens anymore. You are becoming an active part of the fun world of English. And with this foundation, we can now move on to see how these tools are used in real conversations and how we can start to use them ourselves. 4. Humor and English fluency. Learning a new language is like building a house. First, you need a strong base, like the grammar and words you learn. Then, you build solid walls with good pronunciation and how you put sentences together. But to make that house feel like a real home, a place where you are happy and can truly live, You need the small special things. You need the decorations, the things that make it yours, the things that make it feel alive. For English, these special touches often come with humor. Think about it. When you can understand a joke, even a simple one, something wonderful happens. It's like a small light turns on inside you. You are not just hearing words anymore, you are understanding the clever way the words are used, the surprising twist, the shared feeling that makes people laugh. This is where we start to talk about something very special: English humor fluency. It's not just about knowing English. It's about feeling English, about being able to connect with people in a deeper way. Imagine you have been learning English for some time. You can read books, watch movies, and talk with people. But sometimes you miss something. People laugh, and you don't know why. They say something that sounds serious, but their eyes sparkle, and everyone laughs. You feel a little lost, like you are not part of the group. Many learners feel this way, and it is perfectly fine. But it also shows us that there is another level to learn, a final part of the journey, if you like. That part is understanding English humor. Why is humor so important for truly mastering English? Well, English humor is like a secret code, a quick way to understand not just the words, but the culture behind them. Many jokes in English use things that English speakers know from their daily lives, from their history, from things they have all experienced. When you understand a joke that uses a common saying in a funny way, or talks about a famous TV show, or uses an old story in a funny way, you are not just getting the joke. You are also learning a little bit about the culture. This understanding of the culture makes your English feel more natural, more alive. It helps you understand why people say things the way they do, and that is a big step toward speaking well. Let me tell you about Maria, one of my students. Maria was very smart. She knew her grammar rules perfectly, she knew many words, and she could write essays that would impress any teacher. But when she spoke with people, she was often quiet. She listened carefully, but when jokes were told, she would just smile politely, not sure what was funny. She felt like she was watching from the outside. One day, we were talking about common English sayings. I used the phrase raining cats and dogs to say it was raining very hard. Maria understood the meaning, that it was raining a lot. But then, a few days later, we were watching a cartoon and a character said, "Wow, it's really raining cats and dogs out there." And then a cartoon cat and dog fell from the sky. Maria, who had been thinking only about the real meaning of the words, was very confused. She thought the character was saying it was actually raining animals. We laughed about it later, and I explained that the cartoon was playing with the saying. It was using the picture of cats and dogs falling from the sky to make the saying even funnier. For Maria, this was a moment of understanding. She saw that humor often plays with words and their meanings in surprising ways. It was not just about knowing the words, it was about knowing the ideas behind them and how those ideas could be changed to make people laugh. This is what we mean by English humor fluency. It is the ability to not just hear English, but to understand it, to figure out what it means, and to even like how clever it is. It means knowing when someone is saying the opposite of what they mean, when they are making a joke with similar sounding words, or when they are using humor to make a point. This skill is like a secret key that opens up deeper talks and better connections with people. When you can understand humor, you start to sound more fluent. Think about how people who speak English as their first language talk. They don't just give information, they add their personality. They use their voice, the timing of their words, and humor to make what they say more interesting. If you can understand a joke, you can react to it. You can laugh at the right time, or even say something clever yourself. This being part of the conversation makes your English sound more natural. It helps you fit in, not in a way that you lose yourself, but in a way that makes you feel more comfortable and sure of yourself. It's like learning to dance. At first, you just follow the steps. But with practice, you start to feel the music, to move with the beat, and to do your own steps. Understanding humor is like finding that beat in English, and this helps us build good relationships. Laughter is a strong way to connect with people. When you can laugh with someone, you instantly feel closer to them. For people learning English, being able to understand and respond to humor can remove walls between you and others. It shows people who speak English as their first language that you are not just learning their language, but that you are also connecting with their culture, with the way they see the world. This can lead to more open, friendly, and real conversations. You are not just sharing information, you are building friendships. And strong friendships make talking with people much easier and more fun. Let's think about the more hidden types of English humor, like sarcasm and irony. These are difficult. Sarcasm is when you say the opposite of what you really mean, often to be funny or to make a point. For example, if it is raining very hard and someone says, "What lovely weather we're having," with a smile, they are being sarcastic. They don't really think it's lovely, they are using the opposite words to show how bad it is. Irony is similar, where what you expect to happen is different from what actually happens. To understand these, you have to look very closely at the details. You have to listen to the sound of their voice, look at their face, and think about the situation. Are they smiling? Does their voice sound flat? Is what they are saying the opposite of what you would expect in this situation? These are the skills that show a truly fluent speaker. They can understand the hidden meanings, know what is not being said, and deal with the complex ways people talk to each other. This ability to grasp small meanings is a direct result of developing English humor fluency. It's not just about understanding jokes. It's about understanding the deeper levels of talking. Also, humor can make learning much faster. When you see new words or grammar in a funny situation, they stay with you. You remember the joke, and with it, you remember the language that was used. Think about puns. Puns are jokes that play on words that sound the same, but have different meanings. For example, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. The words make up can mean to invent something or to form something. The humor comes from this double meaning. When you understand this pun, you are not just laughing, you are making sure you remember the word make up and its different uses. This makes learning feel less like hard work and more like an exciting trip. So, how does understanding English humor directly make a learner feel more confident and more willing to talk when the moment happens? It's a strong loop. When you start to understand jokes, you feel more connected. You feel like you get it. This makes you more confident. With more confidence, you are more likely to speak up, to join conversations, and to take chances with your language. You are less afraid of making mistakes because you know that even if you say something wrong, you can still share the happy feeling of a laugh. This willingness to join in leads to more practice, and more practice leads to even better fluency. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting faster and bigger. And how does understanding cultural references and English jokes help you understand the language more deeply, beyond just words and grammar? It gives you the background. Language does not exist by itself. It is deeply connected to the culture of the people who speak it. When a joke talks about a special holiday, a famous person from history, a common way people act, or even a popular song, it is giving you a look into the shared world of English speakers. Understanding these references means you are not just learning words, you are learning the world those words belong to. You start to understand the things people assume, the values they have, and the ways they see things that shape how English is used. For example, a joke about tea time might seem simple, but it shows a cultural tradition, a social event, and a certain way of living. By understanding the joke, you start to grasp these cultural foundations, which then helps you use the language yourself in a richer and more real way. It is this deeper understanding, this ability to connect with the spirit of the language, that truly makes a learner better. It changes the study of English from just an academic task into a lively, real experience. It's about going beyond just speaking English correctly to speaking English with confidence, naturally, and with connection. It's about reaching that final part of the journey where the language becomes not just a tool, but a part of who you are. Having seen how very important humor is to this journey, the next important step is to get the tools to actually develop the skill. We need real ways to start understanding and liking English humor, turning those moments of confusion into moments of connection and laughter. Conclusion: you did it. You have reached the end of the final frontier of English, understanding humor. This is a big achievement. You have started a journey into one of the most interesting and rewarding parts of the English language. We have looked at fun word games called puns. We have figured out confusing things like sarcasm. We have also studied clever jokes called satire. You have learned that English humor is not just about telling jokes. It is about knowing the hidden rules, the culture, and the smart use of words that makes it funny. For many, humor felt like a final frontier, a hard mountain to climb to speak English very well. But by reading this book, you have taken big steps toward reaching the top. Now, let's talk about why this journey is so important. Being fluent in English humor means you can not only understand English jokes and clever sayings, it also means you can understand when and why they are funny. You can see what the speaker means. And, when it feels right, you can even make jokes yourself. This shows you understand the culture and speak English very well. When you can laugh with people who speak English, not just at a joke they have to explain to you, you connect with them better. It shows you are not just learning, but you are a part of the group. English humor often shows people who don't take themselves too seriously, who love playing with words, or who see the world in a special way. By understanding these jokes, you get a better and deeper understanding of cultures where English is spoken. Practicing understanding humor also helps you hear small changes in voice, sarcasm, and irony. This makes you a better listener in all situations. Every time you understand a joke or a witty comment, you feel more confident. This new confidence will help you in all your English conversations. And learning a language can be hard, but using humor makes the journey more fun, less stressful, and much more effective. This book has given you the plan and the tools, but the adventure of humor fluency is something you will keep exploring even after you finish this page. Humor is a skill that is always changing and growing, so keep listening carefully. Watch English TV shows and movies. Pay close attention to what people say. Listen to podcasts and radio shows. Notice how people joke when they talk normally. Watch funny stand-up comedy shows, read funny books, interesting articles, and even funny pictures on social media. Don't be afraid to look up what something means if you don't understand it at first. Try to see what kind of humor is being used. If you are with friends who speak English, ask them, "What's funny about that?" Or can you explain the joke? Most people are happy to help. Sometimes you will miss the funny part or not understand sarcasm. This is okay. Think of these moments as chances to learn, not as mistakes. When you feel ready, try to tell a simple, light joke yourself. Start small and build your confidence. The more you practice, the better you will become. You have traveled to the final frontier of English, the world of humor. And you have not just arrived. You have started to understand its land, its people, and its special language. Being fluent in English humor is not just a name. It is a key to having better friendships, understanding cultures more deeply, and having a more lively and fun experience. With the English language, it is the laughter, the cleverness, and the smiles shared that truly make language come alive. So go out there, enjoy the wit, love the wordplay, and never stop laughing. The world of English humor is big and wonderful, and now you are ready to explore it. Keep learning and keep laughing.